Welcome back. You're watching Newslink, and Eskom seems to be easing up on those blackouts with an expectation that they will be suspended for tomorrow. It's definitely not as severe as earlier this year or last year. More generating units are back up, and former CEO Andre de Ruyter has since left the power utility. Let's speak to energy analyst Chris Yelland on this. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, Chris. Let's maybe just unpack that notion that is it pure coincidence that we see the exit of the former CEO Andre de Ruyter, and suddenly we are back to stages 1 and 2, and even a suspension of load shedding within days of him departing?
Well, firstly, I just want to say how pleased and delighted I am that we're having possibly only stage 1 or stage 2 load shedding this weekend, maybe even no load shedding this weekend. It's absolutely wonderful. But having said that, I think we should just keep our eye on the fundamentals. Sometimes load shedding, we have a bad week. Sometimes we have a good week or two. Load shedding sometimes disappears. And we kind of then hopefully think that the fundamentals have been solved until it comes back again, and we're reminded that the problem is still with us. So when you look at energy availability factor, which is a measure of the availability of the power plant and its performance, one must understand that this varies almost hour by hour in terms of the number of generators that are available. So you can have periods of reduced load shedding, in fact, of no load shedding, and then suddenly units break down, and if they happen all simultaneously, you're plunged back into load shedding. So let's just keep a realistic outlook with our feet on the ground. The other thing to say is that when things start to improve, one should not forget the very hard work that has been put in over the last 3-4 years to get things right. It just doesn't work that when a new CEO comes in, clicks his fingers, that the problems magically disappear. No, it takes a long time and it takes hard work. And very often a new executive or management or minister comes in and claims all the credit for the hard work that has been done by others. So I think we need to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, let's speak about those fundamentals that you say wouldn't have been fixed within weeks of leadership changes and things like that. The fundamentals that would ensure the sustainability of lower stages of load shedding, or hopefully no load shedding at some point. What would those be?
First of all, I think you've hit the nail on the head that we should be talking about a sustainable improvement in performance. A sustainable improvement is something that's measured over a longer period than a week. And really to kind of cherry pick the performance of the top 6 power stations over a period of 1 week is really quite misleading, because it's not considering the many very poorly performing power stations over the same week. So one needs to look at this over a longer period, typically a year, or at least several months, to get an idea as to whether this improvement is sustainable. So you need to start looking at a trend. But we know from long history that there have been problems with finance, money, having enough money to do the necessary work, having the necessary skills, having the necessary spares at one's disposal, and planning these outages. Remember, you cannot do these outages on all the units simultaneously. They have to be very carefully planned in sequence, because we run a tight ship where supply and demand are sometimes not in balance, not enough supply to meet demand. And so there's very often not a lot of space to do the necessary maintenance. And it's going to take several years to do this deep level maintenance. So these are the constraints that one has to work within. And these constraints do not just disappear overnight. One's got to work on them continuously for a long time. And I do know that Eskom has been working on this for some time. I'm sure it's not achieved the results that they would have liked. But we do have to remember that a change in trend, a long-term decline in energy availability factor, is going to take time to firstly stabilize, bottom out, start to improve again, and it is the result of a lot of hard work over a long time.
And I suppose then it helps, or it's to the benefit of Eskom, Chris, that Standard & Poor's has looked at the debt relief bill that was announced by Minister Godongwana, and saying that they've put them on a positive credit watch and may change their rating, a few notches up, just to show that they have become financially stable. That might help them attract the necessary maintenance funding that they would need over the next few years.
That's absolutely correct. This bailout that they've received, more than half of Eskom's debt, is going to be used, of course, to repay Eskom debt. And it's going to improve Eskom's balance sheet, enabling it to be financially sustainable. So it's important to be financially stable in order to do the necessary operational things like deep level maintenance, like ensuring that you've got the right spares at hand, that you can contract with the necessary original equipment manufacturers to have them lined up and ready to come when needed to do this deep level maintenance. So certainly the financial sustainability of Eskom is critical also for the operational sustainability.
What about the other development this week, Chris, around the Minister of Environmental Affairs, Barbara Creecy, really exempting Eskom, I think it's Kusile if I'm not mistaken, from those carbon dioxide emission regulations? How much capacity does that add to the grid? I suppose broadly, how much does it actually help the power utility?
Look, in the next year, it does not help the utility. But what it does mean is that the 3 units at Kusile that are currently out as a result of a technical failure, they can put in a temporary measure which can be delivered in about a year. Now, but by putting in this temporary measure, it means that they'll be exceeding the environmental limits for emissions, for pollution. So the minister has allowed them now to exceed these limits while they run this plant as a temporary, in a temporary measure, bypassing the so-called flue gas desulfurization plant, which is what takes out the sulfur dioxide out of the waste gases. So this concession by Minister Creecy will enable Eskom to put in place a temporary solution in about a year, which will, in about a year, significantly bring new generation capacity, 3 units of about 710 megawatts each. That's about 2,100 megawatts will be brought. It'll allow that to be brought back onto the grid. Currently, it's off the grid. It's going to be off still for many months to come, but at least it'll come on stream quicker than if the minister had not given this concession. But the downside, of course, is the impact on human health, on respiratory disease of people living in that area.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chris, for those insights. As always, that is energy analyst Chris Yelland joining us this morning to unpack the recent developments around Eskom, that relief that we've received over the past week, stages 1 and 2, and we're set to be load shedding free tomorrow. Let's hope that a sustainable solution will be found.